everything. And she's like, Mom, I'm tired of you saying I'm gonna be resilient. I'm fucking resilient enough. I already was resilient. She's like, well, you feel sorry for me. I was like, okay.
I mean, not when he was here.
So you
Wow.
live in New York City. What do you mean? And she's
I know.
like, I don't care.
Right.
So it's fun. But she's in Vermont. She left yesterday, actually. And
So now the
last week, back. They settled right after the holidays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God. What's the like? Is there a focus of
Kind of, she's in a,
Wait. My hearing is so.
wait,
Right. Yeah. But you know, but I think it's a year.
somebody put it in the chat. So what are you hearing? That was it. Michael, you want to go ahead? Oh, the councilman's not going to go. Oh, no. Michael, can we go ahead? And the councilman's not coming, correct?
Yes.
So we already.
Okay. We're gonna call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone, for our second live and in-person planning commission meeting. So first, I think, Marco, you're still gonna read the preamble, and then we'll get going.
In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law, section 101.021 of the California Ordinances of Changing Ohio 1976, notice of this meeting has been published. All boards and commissions under the purview of the city planning department conduct its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. And the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to taking any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise your hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise your hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop or mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking the raise your hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located at the bottom of the WebEx screen. Calling users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. Our request to speak on a particular matter via our website and email have been considered. We have also received email from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter.
Michael, you want to call the roll?
Anthony,
Present.
Downing,
Present.
Fluker,
Present.
Curry,
Present.
McCray Scott,
Present.
Shiori Clark,
Present.
Slut. I'm sure we have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. First item is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, which were sent out in advance. If I could have a motion to approve.
I'm sure I move to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we call the roll?
Anthony,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes. Yes.
Eckler.
Yes.
Motion carried. If someone could mute themselves on time, that would be helpful. Whoever that is. Can you mute them, Maureen? Okay, we have two zoning map amendments, and for those of you in the audience, I'm just going to read the rules for both, and then I'm going to hand over the meeting to the vice chair, Mr. Fluker, who will chair for the first item, of which I have a conflict. But for zoning matters, just for the audience, both online and here, we first hear a presentation from staff on the proposed rezoning and answer questions of the commission. Second, we hear sponsor testimony. This can be the council person or the owner of the rezoned property or architect where applicable. Third, we will hear public comment. This is a public hearing. We will allow testimony from the public, both online and here. And first, we'll hear from proponents, those in favor of the zoning change, and then we will hear from opponents, those who oppose. If you also have a question, you can also do that either in either session. We ask that you state your name clearly and your organization or address before you speak, and sign in the sign-in sheet that is on the table. We ask that you keep your comments to 2 minutes or less so that we can get to other matters. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the vice chair and actually recuse myself and leave the room.
Thanks. Thanks, Madam Chair. Both first zoning item on the agenda has no zoning ordinance number. It's in Ward 7, Councilmember House. It's for changing the use and area height districts of parcels of land along East 66th Street between Linwood Avenue and Longview Avenue. Map change 2665. We're going to entertain staff comment first. Would that be?
Yep, thank you. My name is Xavier Bay, part of the city planning team. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the commissions and visitors. So we can go to the next slide. All right, a little delayed on the other one. So, yeah, so the purpose behind this rezoning to allow development of light-tech homes right along this East 66 corridor, also promoting, so this promotes a variety of different housing typologies. It's also in alignment with some of the previous plans for the 66 neighborhood, or East 66 neighborhood plan. Part of a larger rezoning to have in the future, really trying to provide this as one of the main corridors for the Huff neighborhood. Also, this rezoning will be in alignment with the form-based code soon to come. So next slide, please. So yeah, here you can just see kind of the Cleveland context, right? So we're closer there into Ward 7. You can see like the general area within the ward. Also attached is the item of support from Councilwoman House. Next slide, please. And so the existing zoning districts here are multifamily and two-family. There is an outline of the area that we're doing the zoning change. Next slide, please. So yeah, just the existing context right there north of League Park. Right smack dab into the Huff neighborhood. And so also attached there, it's like, just to connect this with some of the plans along East 66th Street, really making this like more of a vibrant part of the neighborhood, providing more, redevelopment of infrastructure and amenities for the area. Next slide, please. So here's, throughout these next few slides, you can see some of the existing context along the street. So we can just kind of cycle through these. This next one right here is actually across the streets, looking south from the site that's changing zoning. You can see League Park on one side and some of the residential, structures on the other. Slide, please. Thanks. So here's the image on the top of pretty much the east side of East 66th Street. That's where the zoning change is stopping right there, the southern side of Longview. And then the bottom image there shows you pretty much the end of the other side of East 66th Street. Just some of the other structures that are currently there, what the street context looks like. Thank you. And so here's the proposed zoning, switching over to limited retail D2 and also, instituting these setbacks, maximum and minimum setbacks. So the green dashed lines are the 15-foot max and 3-foot minimum setbacks. The blue lines along East 66th Street are the 15-foot max and 5-foot minimum setbacks. Next slide. And so the real reason behind those max and mins is so that it aligns with the regulations for the form-based code soon to come to this area. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. You can see on the map right there. You can see League Park right south of Linwood. There's Zoder, just south of there is where the zoning change is happening, right in between Zoder and Linwood. Next slide, please. So here's some images of just the site plans to come for the proposed development of light tech housing. Next slide, please. Also, just a reminder of these residential yard setbacks, a little bit more about them, just to keep refreshing your mind. It's 15% of the average depth of the lot. Next slide, please. These are required in residential districts. And so also, these take precedence over all other setback regulations and can only be changed with legislation. Next slide, please. So that's just it. The proposed zoning to limited retail D2 from a multifamily and two-family housing district, and also incorporating those setbacks to really make sure we're sticking with the future plans for the neighborhood with form-based code. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one quick housekeeping. If you plan to speak on behalf of this project, please sign in. We need to have record of who's speaking. Now we're going to entertain any comments or questions from the commission. Hearing none. Sponsor testimony, any council person or anybody from the administration who would like to speak on behalf of this proposed change?
I can, and I'll sign in.
Okay.
My name is Sheila Wright, and I'm with Frontline Development Group. We're working on the project, the Allen Estates in Huff. And this particular project will allow us to create a multifamily space. I think the FBC would requires the 3-story. We need the zoning to take it a little higher. We are going for a LIHTC 9% with OFA, and so to meet those requirements, we had to adjust a little bit. And this is part of an overall project ambitiously set to bring 300 living units in that space, a little under 5 acres. It aligns to the investment that's happening on East 66. And it's also going to give us an opportunity to make sure that there are various people of various income deciles who will be able to capitalize off of this.
So what type of affordable housing? Is it multifamily or is it?
It's going to be multifamily, so it's 45 units total, 7 single-family homes, all 3 bedrooms. This aligns to OFA's policy, and 38 units in the multifamily building would be 19 1-bedrooms and 19 2-bedrooms. So it will be variations of income. We are, again, this one is for 9%. I will tell you, we are looking at a 4% on the other side of the street, which will give us more variations in terms of line and allows other strategic partners to be a part of this. But for the immediate, it's 9%. As you know, the application is coming up, and so this is something we want to take advantage of. We are partnering with a partner who we awarded a 9% further up in Huff, Rona Cooper. And so that will be our partner on this project. They have experience doing these type of deals all over the country, and so they bring that level of experience to this project.
Do we have, just trying to, there was only the one image of the actual plan for the development. Can you just talk a bit more about, did you mention how many stories it is, or like just kind of the size of the?
So our goal is to make this 4 stories, again, in alignment to what we need with respect to OFA. So instead of the 3 stories as originally stated, we seek to make this a 4-story building. And then again, 45 units total that will also include 7 single-family homes, which was not part of our original plan, but to bring this and kind of make the numbers work and to create opportunities for people to live in a different kind of space, but bring it on the single-family homes as well. So we can make sure we submit I mean, it's an iteration now, as you know, we're kind of one close to the face to get this application done, but we can bring more design to you as we continue the application.
Okay, because you were talking about different sides of the street,
Yeah.
right? And so this one that we're talking about right now, is it are we talking about both sides, or we're talking about
So-
rezoning on both sides, but we're only talking about a project that's on one side of the street?
I could
So
get
far?
into that. So through the chair, this proposed development, right? I mean, so the zoning change is happening on both east and west side of East 66th Street. And so I mean, this is gonna come back before the commission to actually, through design review and everything. This is mainly just kind of an initiative of rezoning, really to continue to align with the plans for the neighborhood and because this development came up.
Thanks for that clarification. Thank you. I would assume council member House is in support?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
There was a letter?
Yeah.
Oh,
at the end of the
screen.
oh, I'm sorry.
She is in support. That was our first conversation.
I can say unequivocally, I had the opportunity to meet with the Cuyahoga County Land Bank about property and around, and this is gonna definitely help stabilize and create a market so that we can continue to develop it on the round of, so. Thank you. Do we have any further public comments, proponents first? If there's anyone around who'd like to speak on behalf of the project? Hearing none? Opponents? Those who might be opposed? No? Any further questions from the commission?
I'll move approval of this.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Bozak, roll please.
Anthony,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Abstain.
Shiori Clark.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Guess we can grab Madam Chair now. Thank you.
Very exciting.
Thank you very much.
I was just driving around there, yesterday.
I'm listening.
No, I just, I'm getting excited, right? Because
Well, that's a tell. I know you don't.
no, seriously, I live south, of there, so selfishly, right?
Everything
Welcome
okay?
back, Madam Chair, yes.
We're good. The second item is also a zoning matter, part of a public hearing. This is the changing of the use area height district of parcels of land north of University Road between I-90 and West Third Street. Shannon? Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Shannon Leonard, Chief Zoning Planner, City Planning Commission. So the purpose of this rezoning is really to remove some of the legacy industrial zoning along the River Valley. It's also to correct a split zoning occurrence that would happen, and then also to promote a variety of uses such as multifamily, townhome, single-family, maker spaces, and neighborhood retail, as well as to help connect the neighborhood to the waterfront. Next slide, please. We do have council support. This is located in Ward 3. Next slide, please. So the current zoning here is currently general industry, adjacent to open space recreation. And then there's quite a steep incline up to the multifamily. Next slide, please. And so this is the existing context. This was the former rail yard turned asphalt plant. There is a civil matter leasing the property that is separate from this rezoning. However, any use that is currently existing and operating can continue to do so as they are grandfathered in. Next slide, please. Again, just some pictures of the existing context. Next slide. And again, these are southwest view along Literary Road. And as you can see, there's quite a drop in the topography. Next slide, please. And then just some more pictures of the existing context looking along West Third. Next slide, please. And so the proposed zoning that went out onto our website earlier this week was for limited retail K5. The current zoning is general industry B3. Next slide, please. And so we're simply proposing limited retail K3, so there's no change in height, but there is a change in use along here. I'll walk you through, but on this map here, you can see in the pink is the limited retail K3, and then the green on the ODOT properties is we're proposing open space rec, and that's really just to align it. Once they consolidated those parcels under the highway and added the towpath trail, there was a split zoning issue, and we're just correcting that on the maps. And then we're proposing urban form overlay along Literary and West Third there. Next slide, please. And so how did we arrive at this rezoning? It was a partnership with the current property owner, intended property owner, as well as the Connecting Cleveland 2020 plan, as well as the vision for the valley. And so the goal of this rezoning is really to connect the Tremont neighborhood to the waterfront. It's to clean up some of the legacy environmental issues within the river valley. This is an industrial site that is intended to be remediated as part of the development process. And then to restore native riparian landscaping along the riverfront to manage the stormfront runoff, improve water quality, and improve the aesthetic quality of the river valley. As you know, there's been some intensive studies and plans for this area over the last several years. Next slide, please. And so the proposed zoning here for the limited retail K5 is the site itself, as well as right there on the border there on the north side of the hill where the towpath trail is. Next slide, please. And then this part for the open space recreation, correcting that issue, is the yellow is just part of the parcel. The parcel goes all the way across under 90 where ODOT owns that property, and we're just correcting that zoning. Next slide, please. And so then the other part of this rezoning is adding that urban form overlay. And that's really just to promote equity and safety by encouraging some type of vibrant pedestrian experience and making sure that we are building a walkable space if this property is to be redeveloped. Next slide, please. And so that's really the entire rezoning. We're proposing limited retail to allow for potential redevelopment, as well as adding the urban form overlay and then correcting the split zoning issue by instituting open space recreation as a way to help in the future connect the Tremont neighborhood to the waterfront. Thank you.
I have a technical question before we ask for the sponsor and anyone else has. A technical question is the portion that is both the green and the edge that touches the river.
Yeah.
Does this, will this have the setback requirement for boardwalk?
We can institute that when we start mapping watercourse setbacks.
But I mean, when we passed legislation recently about setbacks along the riverfront so that there's a no-build zone, if you will, would that apply today? Is what I'm asking.
If we add it into the rezoning, it would.
Today.
Today, if you asked to add it on the amendment, the watercourse setback could apply.
Okay, but it's not currently as presented.
Not currently as I'm presenting right now.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Is there any sponsor here that's speaking to this? I know you said the councilman is in favor.
Councilman McCormick and
Is in favor.
the proposed developer. I'm not sure if they may be on the call.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh, I see. Councilman, we see your hand raised and we see you. Welcome.
Hi. Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you. And I'm actually at the NOACA board meeting, I believe with Director Wong. So once again, saddling 2 meetings, so please forgive me. Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning, and wanted to just, first of all, Shannon knocked it out of the park in explaining, as always, this proposal. So I want to thank her for her diligent work here. Just a couple quick thoughts. I support this rezoning, and I'll just share a little bit of feedback. Attended a neighborhood meeting with about 60 adjacent residents this week, and rarely in Ward 3 are things clear as day. A lot of folks have different opinions, but the neighborhood was very clear that they did not want to see a height increase on this property. And so I appreciate the city planning department removing that height increase to this proposal. But in addition to that, Madam Chair, in conversations with the director, we also believe and support that maintenance and of the current height. Really getting into how does any future of this property interact with the towpath? How does it interact with the river? There's a lot of questions there. So I agree, and I don't want to speak for the director, but I believe planning also agrees that it's appropriate to not increase the height here, given all of those kind of open questions about what the future of this property could be. Madam Chair, at this point, there is that I'm aware of, there's no development plan for this site. But again, as Shannon noted, this is a kind of a forward-looking rezoning of this property. All existing uses, of course, will be grandfathered in and will allow it to be continued to be used. So the last thing I'll say, Madam Chair, is that, I'm sorry, the neighborhood was in support of changing the use. So there was strong support for changing the use, just not increasing the height. The last thing I'll say, Madam Chair, is I fully, wholeheartedly support you and the board making a motion to add the setback on this parcel. So I would encourage that, and I would be happy to add that into the legislation at the appropriate time. So again, in summary, Madam Chair, I support this change of use without the increase in height, and I believe that reflects the feedback from our neighborhood residents as well as the desire of the planning department. Thank you so much.
Technical second question. What you're proposing is the height that,
It's currently at no change in height.
no change. That's what we
Yeah.
saw.
No change in height.
Got it. Okay.
So just K3.
K3, got it. Okay, we're gonna open up for public comment, as once I said. Is anyone first in favor of the zoning change? Just state your name and address and raise your hand either online or here. I see Aaron Taylor online.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So I represent Emerald Dock LLC, who is the owner of the land. And, listen, when it comes to the height, we support, the planning department's change to a level height 3 district. They do this all the time. This isn't their first rodeo. And so we are, and support what they feel is best for this site. So we have, we're in support of that height district 3. We obviously are in favor of the rezoning. And so, we are looking to you to guide this through the process.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor of this matter? Okay. Anyone opposed who would like to speak as opposed? Okay.
Good morning, I'm Chad Reel. I'm the general manager for Shelley Materials. We own the asphalt plant that this property will be abutted to. This is the largest asphalt plant in the state of Ohio. It operates 24 hours a day. We have supply contracts with the city of Cleveland that we've had for multiple decades. The asphalt supply contract and currently the Cleveland requirements contract. We supply upwards of 80,000 tons of asphalt to the city of Cleveland. So this is an operation that's constant at night. You're gonna have people with balconies overlooking an asphalt plant. It's not next to an asphalt plant. If you go back 4 or 5 pictures, it's on top of an asphalt plant. So this is a heavy operation. It's a light industrial. Also, I've read in articles that when the asphalt plant ceases to exist, there's no plan to cease to exist. We will operate in perpetuity on that property with our partners, Lafarge Holcim. Brian, do you have anything else to add? I would add one more piece. We've calculated the cost of us having to shrink down in size. There's additional costs that will cost the city a little bit upwards of $1 million a year with this change in the zone.
Yes, my name is Brian Barker. I'm also with the Shelley company. I'm an attorney. And I just wanted to make the commission aware that I think it was maybe alluded to that there's certainly litigation going on right now surrounding this property, the actual title to the property. Shelley has a right to purchase that property at the end of its lease in July of this year, and we are looking at that process right now. So if Shelley is successful in purchasing the property at the end of its term, it intends to continue using the property for material storage in conjunction with the asphalt plant.
So we would strongly ask that you do not pass the zoning change. And at a minimum, we would ask that you wait until we understand who the ownership is at the end of our lease term.
Thank you.
Anybody else opposed to zoning change?
Yes, good morning. I'm Rob Hayes. I'm land manager for Wholesome, branded as Lafarge here in Cleveland, 2106 West 3rd Street. Joined by Scott Plord, our general manager, and Mike Bowen from Calfee. We're opposed to the rezoning for a variety of reasons, some of which Chad has already enumerated. Just if we could go back to that slide, please, that shows the proposed rezoning district. We own the parcel, the triangular shaped parcel or conglomeration of parcels directly north of the purple area. So it's 7.1 acres. The lion's share of Shelley's asphalt plant is on our property. Most of the use of the property that they lease from Emerald Dock is primarily material storage for feedstock into their plant. So when we're talking about the asphalt plant, 90% of it is on our property. We lease to Shelley. Like Chad said, they plan on continuing to operate for perpetuity. It's not going to go away. Wholesome Lafarge, we intend to continue as owner of that property to maintain industrial use for perpetuity. It's also important to note that if you look at that map, you can see a good 80%, I would say, of that riverfront is owned by us. So the connecting Tremont to the riverfront, I don't see it with this proposal. You got a little piece down at the west end. So with us being there with the asphalt plant leased to Shelley, we foresee some issues. We're not anti-development. We're all for development. It's good for our business. So we don't want to come off like we're anti-development. And as Mr. Reel had listed as well, we see a litany of complaints. If this gets approved and this development goes forward, we see a litany of complaints that are unavoidable, that we're all going to have to deal with, least of which the city. Normal asphalt plant concerns, odors, trucking, 24/7 operations, so site illumination, aesthetics, noise. It's all part of a normal operation of an industrial use such as an asphalt plant. So for those reasons, we respectfully request that you deny the rezone. Thank you.
Technically, which parcels do you own?
I wish I had a point.
Northern.
Yeah, the northern parcel directly north of the
Can you,
yeah, where it says G1B3. Yeah,
those three, those two?
correct. Yeah.
Okay, and which
Little percentage.
parcels do you own
We lease.
from him?
Correct.
None of the rezoned parcels?
We have an option to purchase.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
And as Shelley mentioned, there is a civil, and as the planner mentioned, there is a civil suit pending right now, Docks parcel. So that 17.9 acres to the south, we have a right of first refusal. The owner's been silent on it. We exercise our right by notifying them that if you get an offer to purchase, we get first dibs. And we've not heard anything. So we had no choice but to take it to court.
Got it.
So thank you.
Okay, we're gonna close the public portion, or unless you have a question for
I
them.
do have a question, Madam Chair. I guess I don't understand how one would lose $1 million. What did you say, a day or a year?
A year.
I don't understand what you're talking, I don't understand how that translates to what we're talking about.
So
Just need some
we
clarification.
supply to the city of Cleveland, so the next contract, we'd have to increase our costs because we have a lot more logistics that have to occur because we have a smaller footprint. We'll have to stockpile away from this plant, Lafarge's property, further away, we have property at Westwood 30. So you have trucking cost increase, you have capacity diminish, which should increase the cost of the plant. So increase in cost of material provided.
Right.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, so our director spoke to Chief Tewin in charge of operations and the administration who is in support of this rezoning. And so I was told to inform you of that as it relates to the claims about the increase in asphalt. Chief Tewin is in support of this rezoning, and Matt could probably speak to it a little bit more. But also to note that regardless of the civil issue at hand, the owner has requested, Emerald Dock has asked us to rezone the property and we've worked with them, the council person, as well as I think Tremont West had a part in this, to rezone this to limited retail business. But it also to speak to Lafarge and the other industrial user, they can continue to use this in perpetuity regardless of the rezoning. They are grandfathered in, they're currently operating. As long as they continue to operate and they don't remove any evidence that they're still not operating as an asphalt plant After 2 years, they can continue. They'll become a legal non-conforming use.
All right, we're going to close the public portion. And
Madam Chairperson?
yes. Sorry, I didn't see your hand raised.
No, I tried to
Go
raise
ahead.
my hand, but I apparently don't have the icon with the
Okay.
smiley face on my
Go ahead.
version of WebEx, so I apologize
Okay.
for butting in.
Just state your name and address and go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Todd Gray. I'm a resident at 705 University. I'm directly affected by, this parcel. It abuts the hillside, the bluff that terminates about 10 feet from my front door. I have had issues with the asphalt factory for the 13 years that I've lived here. It's not been ideal, but I will say this: I oppose even the current height restriction. I don't think this height. I mean, the height of a level 3, from what I understand, is 115 feet or 11 stories. If you put an 11-story building up against, backed up against this bluff, it would completely terminate the use and enjoyment of our properties. We would be in a huge shadow, the radiant light coming from a residential place that big, the noise, the increased traffic, it would be disastrous for the towpath trail. I mean, disastrous is an understatement. I will say this: I'm in complete support of changing the use, but I cannot support anything as high as 115 feet. If it would be scaled down to the next level, which I understand is 60 feet, that may be acceptable. I'd like to see a plan for the development. I've heard rumored that they're out there, that there's that at least they know what they're going to do. This developer built a monstrosity to the right of us called Electric Gardens, which is from, I'm guessing is this place that they intend to build is going to be even bigger. It would completely overshadow the neighborhood. We've endured a lot here on this street with the I-90 construction for years. It's damaged our homes. This hillside is like a tuning fork. Our homes shake violently whenever there's any type of construction or work down there. So we've done the I-90 bridge. We've done the towpath now. We were sold on the towpath, and access to the front of our homes were taken away with the promise of a scenic towpath. And then it'd be just like the city of Cleveland to then go and blight the scenic towpath by putting a towering structure over us. We'd be pinned between an alleyway and an 11-story structure. It's different if it'd be 100 or 200 or 300 yards out from us, but I don't even think we would need landscaping at this point because we wouldn't have any sunlight with a 115-foot structure. It would be vehemently opposed. We've already consulted legal. I've already started gathering funds to aggressively oppose anything of that height. So and my understanding of the neighborhood is with all due respect to Councilman Cormack, I appreciate all the work he does for us. I appreciate his hard work in decreasing it from a level 5 to a level 3. That's not quite good enough from my perspective, and my understanding in the neighborhood is the majority of people feel the way I do.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a few other hands raised, but I'm going to ask Shannon to technically respond before I will call on you for those online in a second.
Yep, so I just want to clarify. So the current height is a 3-height district, which is 115 feet. So we're proposing no change in the height. But we also know that from University down to the site, it's about 101 feet drop. And so any type of development on that site, there is no proposed development at this time. But if a development does come, their engineers would have to decide if, whatever height the building is. But I can pretty much, that any development has to come back to you all for design review and city planning approval. And so whatever the design is, I'm sure that making sure that the towpath isn't obstructed is part of the, what the city would like to see. So.
Okay,
What is the current setback in the zoning? What would it be along University?
Well, it depends on where you front your building. So if there's a building backing to University, that would be their rear yards. If they were fronting, but if there was a street coming through. So there's a lot of technicalities that would affect the setbacks.
Okay, online, I see Michael, you're next.
Yes, thank you. This is Mike Meyer. I am a resident of Tremont on University Road there as well. I would like to echo Todd's comments about Carrie McCormack. The residents, we really appreciate all of Carrie's hard work for the past several years. He's always talking with us and being there. And we also appreciate the reduction from the K-5 to the K-3. However, I think I have a little bit different opinion of how that block club meeting went. I think there was strong opposition to both the height and some opposition to the rezoning at this point from the neighborhood. The biggest concern that the neighborhood has is the vagueness of the proposal. We're kind of being asked to give our support or give our comments on a rezoning that we're not really sure what this all means. It's more so of just, hey, let's rezone this and figure it out later. My understanding, though, of the K3 height, I agree with Todd. I still think that is too high because my understanding under the city ordinance 353, I believe that would still permit them to build up to 175 feet as long as there's a 60-foot setback. So I think that this height is, it would be very damaging to the residents of Tremont, to the existing owners. I think that there would be an impact not only on the towpath, but on the traffic in Tremont and below, the noise and construction. I think there's a very big concern for the current residents and the proximity of these builds. And the other concern that we have as kind of a neighborhood and residents is, like I said, just the vagueness of the proposal. We aren't sure who the current owner is based on what we've just heard from Shelley Materials. And so I think we're being kind of prematurely asked to either support or oppose this. And one thing I would ask that the commission do is table this until we get some more details. We don't have any evidence of any studies on the soil or any studies of the structural impact to the current residents and current landowners of Tremont. So at a minimum, one of the asks that I would have is just that this is tabled until there are more details given to both the city and the residents. So at this time, I think I speak for several others, we would oppose this rezoning change.
Thank you very much. Susan?
Yeah, thank you. I also echo Todd and Mike's sentiment. I am also a resident of University Road. And my main concern is when I drive down Professor, I see a lot of vacant storefronts and restaurants. Recently, Sokolowski's went out. Granted, it's not on Professor, but we have Parallax. Fahrenheit is moving. Lolita's never been fulfilled, just to name a few. And I'm kind of questioning whether or not we should be rezoning without that market research to see if there's truly a demand. And if we have new construction down below, what happens to the existing historic Tremont?
Okay. Thank you very much. Bob Strickland?
Thank you, Matt.
Muted.
Oh, Bob?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just want to reinforce the comments of my fellow neighbors. I live at 615 University Road. And I was at the Block Club meeting on Tuesday. And yeah, there were a number of different comments and concerns that have already been expressed. And I just want to reinforce that that's the general sentiment of all of the neighbors. So I just want to make sure that the council understands that. Thank you.
Okay. Donna, I thought I saw your hand. Do you want to speak? She might have raised her hand. Gail?
Hi. Oh, sorry. I apologize. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the commission. This is Donna Gregonis with Tremont West Development Corporation. I'm the Director of Real Estate and Economic Development. For those who may not know me that have been speaking, I did want to report that this has not gone through the full community engagement process. So I think that's why we hear a lot of voices today. But from what this did go to the block club. And although nothing was voted on and it hasn't gone to Economic Development Committee, it seems like the majority may or may not have had positive things to say from what was reported to me from the block club. But it was a very well attended event and people are very concerned about the height. And it sounds like a lot of the people have spoken. And I know that we look forward to continuing to talk more about what some of these changes might look like with the community if given the opportunity. But I just wanted to make sure that, we relayed that to you guys. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Aaron Taylor.
Good morning. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. I spoke with the chair of the Block Club after the meeting, and his sentiment was contradictory to what Donna just represented, as well as some of the other residents. We certainly appreciate their stance. They're ingrained in the fabric of this community. They're residents. We are as well. Our headquarters there in the same community, and we really take seriously the fabric of that. And so there is a no plan out there right now. We just requested a rezoning, so there's nothing floating out there that people aren't aware of. We have no vision on that at this point. But we are obviously in strong favor of the rezoning for this. The Height District 3 or the Height District 5 was the big rumbling from the community, and we understood that, and that's where the planning department put it to a level 3, which is appropriate, which is the current zoning. And so I just think it's important to clarify some of those conversations about the rest of the community. And of course, some of the folks on University have concerns of that, but with the site and the slope of that nature, it would be, from an engineering standpoint, challenging, to say the least, to build something right up next to the towpath. And as developers, just again, there's no plan here, but you can look at our project next door and see our relationship to the towpath and how we kind of welcome that and enhance that, as opposed to inhibiting the flow or the community aspect of that. So I appreciate your opportunity to let me respond to that.
Okay, thank you. Carrie, Councilman McCormick.
Madam Chair, thank you. Just 20 seconds. And first, let me say I agree with the sentiment expressed by the neighbors and others about the view sheds pertaining to the towpath and beyond. So there's no space there. I agree with that. But I want to be clear, because I stood in front and I was at the Block Club from the very minute it began to after it ended, talking to residents. And I specifically asked in the Block Club, I said, I want to walk away with clear marching orders and an understanding of what the feedback of the neighborhood is. And I literally parsed it out. I said, is there general consensus that changing the use is a good idea? There was general consensus. I'm not saying every single person, but there was general consensus that yes, changing the use was a good idea. And I said, is there general consensus that increasing the height is a bad idea? There was general consensus that increasing the height was a bad idea. So I was in that Block Club from the minute it began to after it happened. So I'm not sure the readout from Tremont West, but that is not reflective of what happened at the Block Club. There was a staff member of Tremont West there present. But again, I wanted to walk away very clear on the feedback from the neighborhood. We parsed out the zoning, what people liked about it, what they didn't like about it. And that is the readout that was reflected from the residents that attended that Block Club, I'd say about 50 folks that attended. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Those of you who speak, we're going to close the public portion. So if you've already spoken, but if you're answering a question versus making a comment, I will let you, because everyone's had a chance to speak. Or do you want to clarify something?
Yeah, clarify
Okay.
if I could.
And then Shannon, you'll go last, and then we'll close the public.
So good morning. I'm Scott Ford with Lafarge, with Rob. Our office is at 2106 West 3rd. I don't want to lose the fact that a legitimate offer was made on Emerald Dock. We have a right of first refusal on Emerald Dock. Thus, there's no way that changing the planning here should be allowed since we believe it is our right to own that dock. So as was mentioned earlier, we suggest that this matter get tabled until that can be clarified.
Okay, we understood that. Shannon?
Can I just make a few technical clarifications? So for the neighborhood to realize, so the 5 Height District wasn't, it was just a use request from the owner. We typically, when we have sites that are this size, we raise the height in the area district, because otherwise, when you put it out, it becomes like a silo. It could become unbuildable. And so we propose the 5 as a best practice situation, but understand from the community and the councilmen that they would rather just keep it at, what the current height district is, which is 3. And then furthermore, understand that any development that comes here would have to go back through the community and the city planning process. So whether it's single family homes, townhomes, mixed use, it's still got to go through the full planning process. This is really just laying the foundation in alignment with the vision for the valley and the comprehensive plan, and laying the connection, the rezoning for potential connections in the future.
Got it. Okay. We're going to close the public portion. Yeah. Oh, and so you can ask questions or we can discuss now, but we'll just close the public portion. There'll be no more public comment. And commission members, any questions or discussion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair to Shannon. I guess I'm trying to understand what prompted this zone change now, right? Hearing some of the comments that we've heard this morning, both here and presently as well as on the screen. For me, I would want to wait. If right now it's unclear as to what potential development could be for this proposed zoning area, and I guess curious as to what is the urgency at this juncture that led it to the commission today.
Yeah. Through the chair, through the commission member. So the request came through the owner of the property. They would like to, outside of their civil matter that we're not really keen to, would like to redevelop the property in the future to a mix of uses: neighborhood retail, single family homes, townhomes, potentially multifamily homes. And that was what was brought to us. I think we were informed that whatever lease agreement is going on there ends in July. And so we were requested, and then this falls in line with some few other rezonings that have occurred north going towards the lake. So that's really where we're going. And by laying down the foundation, zoning takes time, right? After it goes to you, it goes to council. There's 3 more hearings that have to happen before it actually goes into place. And I think that's where they wanted to get out in front if they want to be able to redevelop this property in the future. I can't speak to them, but I can speak to what the request was of us and how this rezoning would allow that type of development. Any type of residential would not be permitted here if the zoning doesn't change from general industry. And then I think staff planner Moss might have some further details on that.
Any other questions? Technical questions? Thank you. Matt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add to what Shannon said, that she made a really good point about how we've done zoning map changes like this on the Columbus Peninsula, the Grand Peninsula, parts of the West of the Flats. And in addition to the property that's being affected today, we included other parcels, particularly one that the city owns along West Third. That is an asset that the city owns that was identified through a program initiated by the administration called Putting Assets to Work. We are a member of that program with several communities across the country, identifying city-owned assets that are underutilized and can be reutilized either through development, through strategic repositioning of those assets within our own portfolios, whether they're used for apartments or used for other purposes. So that is a large city-owned parcel that was identified as being viable for reuse. And so it is the confluence of these conditions, the vision for the Valley Plan, change of ownership of land, identifying assets that we own that can be reutilized for higher and better use, or to provide more financial resources for the city, that we are seeking to. These are all reasons why we are here today, in part proposing this map change.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I have one, but just in general, I would say that if we're serious about the vision for the valley, the idea of zoning following makes a lot of sense. I hear the concerns, but this is the down zoning, you know, to, that is more protective for the community. Does not change the height district. It would also, although a small portion, add a little bit more ability to have connected riverfront access that can be controlled. And does not prevent the existing use from remaining because it would be grandfathered in. So I just wanted to point out that what we're actually looking at is going from a more heavy industrial use to something that is lighter, that is more protective of the community. And although there is not a development plan, I think there are safeguards in place, and we are one of them, to ensure that the type of development that might come in the future respects university and the views and the access. And I think that's very important. I think that's that should be paramount in how the city works collaboratively here on what might come in the future. So that's my opinion about it. Anyway. But commission members?
Yeah, I think I would generally agree with your sentiments, Chair Curry. To me, knowing that any development that would go on this land would have to come before design review, before our body, you know, would be thoroughly vetted. To me, and looking at kind of the steep slope of this land, it feels to me like there are a number of ways that residential or multi-use development could happen on this site in a way that would not create the kind of towering shadows that some of the residents were mentioning in their comments. And you know, even just the idea of creating a, you know, the possibility of a, you know, a piece of green space fronting onto the river, or thinking about kind of ways that this land could actually provide, you know, more public access in the future, theoretically, to me seems generally to be a good thing. I would also say that in terms of some of the comments around like possible nuisances from the adjacencies, in my opinion, that's an issue that the developer, the owner would have to deal with if, you know, that's, if they have, you know, if they're leasing, you know, and they choose to put apartments immediately adjacent to the existing plan and have trouble leasing it. To me, that's sort of a private issue that would be for them to deal with rather than for us to think about in terms of zoning.
I do have a question, Shannon. Is there anything that would allow us to at least put into the record, just like we're doing around the idea of the setback along the river, the boardwalk, sort of as part of the urban form overlay, at least our sort of our either recommendation or noted that we would require enough of a setback off university that would allow light and views in whatever plan is developed. Is there anything that we can do is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, you can make that a condition of your planning approvals, you know, as it relates to the design review process, because they can't obtain a building permit without getting planning commission approval. As it relates to zoning, we don't really have a rear yard setback minimum maximum tool at this moment. And it really would just end up depending on where they locate the building or how they set out the site, or however it may be redeveloped in the future would ultimately determine how those setback requirements come about. So I think, I mean, we could seek out the law department and ask them what they think, but I think the best mechanism at this point in time would be through, you know, through city planning commission, conditional approval.
Okay. So, but we could add that today if we so choose to the motion that will be a future condition that we will.
And you can also propose to add the water course setback because that tool is now legal.
Yeah. Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Oh, Councilman? Yes.
I would support your motion there. That's all I wanted to note.
Okay. To that. So, commission members, any thoughts?
I just have, Madam Chair, one clarifying question. Shannon, what is being proposed would not include residential, is that correct? Or it does include residential?
What is it's currently zoned as would not permit residential. The limited retail would allow all residential uses, most general retail uses outside some of the more nuanced uses like used car lots and things of that nature.
Thank you.
Commission members?
All right, I'm gonna take a shot at this. We'll be sitting here talking for the next 2 hours. Propose, or I move to approve the proposal as presented with the following caveats. First, we entertain and enforce watershed setback and water course setback, sorry. And the second is, there needs to be ample setback along University to allow for view sheds and proper planning and green space.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Michael, call the roll.
Anthony,
No.
Downey,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Shiori Clark.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you all. The next matter is design review. So we'll move on to design review. And those will be speaking in favor of this is SE Southeast 2023-001. It's a demolition of a 3-story building seeking final approval on 17100 Harvard Avenue. Jeff Henderson, are you here or online? Because I need to swear
Yes,
you
I'm
in.
on, I'm online.
Okay,
Yep.
do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth for this matter now in hearing as you shall answer to God or the penalty?
Yes,
for-
I do.
I usually take out God.
Yes, I do.
Sorry. Go ahead, I apologize.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commission members. Here, my name is Jeff Henderson. I'm with TDA Architecture. I'm representing the Cleveland Metropolitan School District in the approval for demolition of the former JFK High School and the former JFK Recreation Center. You can go to the next slide. Again, just a summary of what we're proposing. The original JFK High School was constructed in '64 and occupied as a high school until recently when the new one was built on Miles Avenue just a couple years ago. Similarly with the Rec Center, which was constructed in '71 and occupied until the construction of the new Rec Center, which is adjacent to the new high school on Miles. Both structures have been unoccupied since then, and as you might expect, has been subject to some vandalism. The intent is to abate and demolish both structures and the related site items. There is an existing football stadium there. The football stadium and track would remain on the site, but the bleachers, which are really, they were originally designed and constructed integral with the rec center. You'll see the photographs, or you're familiar with that. So when we demo the rec center, those bleachers will also come down. And the site, at the final disposition of the site, I guess, is going to be a lot split between CMSD and the city of Cleveland. I don't know that that actual line has been determined yet, but the plan is to split that lot and to give essentially half, I guess, to the city and to the school district. So next slide just kind of gives you an overview site location on Harvard there, really close to Lee. Next slide, kind of a close-up view. You can see Harvard to the very north. You can see in the yellow box, I guess, is the high school. In the blue box is the recreation center, and obviously you can see the track and field that's below that. And the red line is the property right currently as it stands now. East 173rd actually comes into the site off of Harvard, sort of dead ends into the parking area. There's a Head Start that's off, that's off to the right there that has access as well. Next slide. again, these are just some views then of what the current situation is. So you can kind of just looking to the north, obviously you can see the bleachers here, and the green roofs are the roof of the recreation center. And those are, again, structurally, it's all integral. So it will all come down. Next slide is just another view showing the rec center and the high school there. The other structure that's kind of in the foreground there is a Cleveland Fire Station. So obviously that would remain. Next slide. Some street views then along Harvard. Top view is the sort of the front of JFK High School. And the bottom is just to the west of the school where the parking lot is, and adjacent to the retail center that's on the corner of Lee and Harvard. Next slide. Again, moving a little bit further east on Harvard, you can see the fire station that's there, and then west to 173rd, which takes you back access to the parking area, and the lower photo is similar. You can see the rec center and the high school adjacent to that. Next slide, please. The pictures of the rec center then. You can see the sort of the tall concrete wall. That's the sort of the back of the bleachers. So you can see how that's part of that structure. Just some pictures of that existing situation. Next slide. Again, these are some of the excuse me. These are some of the pictures of the interior. Now, CMSD has done their best to kind of secure these buildings, but people have creative ways of getting in and out, and unfortunately, they've gotten into the building and done a lot of removal of copper piping and things like that that are of value from salvage standpoint. So the inside is pretty well trashed, and unfortunately, there's asbestos that was on that piping that is now part of the debris that's on the floor. So that becomes it's a different situation now because that stuff's all been sort of activated, as it were. And again, we had full abatement or asbestos studies done and reports and specifications written for proper disposal of all that as a part of the demolition. So that's just the nature of what we're dealing with here. Next slide. I don't know if there's another slide. Maybe that's just the proposed demolition plan. And it shows just about everything coming off the site except the track, which is at the bottom of that plan, track and field. But the buildings and the parking lots, the driveways will all be removed and regraded. What will happen is there is some existing stormwater currently that picks up the parking lot on the west of the high school as well as on the east of the high school. So temporarily those will remain, and the site will be graded to allow drainage to those existing catch basins, until such a point when there's a plan to redevelop that area or that site, which there isn't one at this moment. So, and I think that is the last slide.
Okay.
I move.
The grading plan. I have.
I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion, and then since we have a motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a question.
So, to the Madam Chair, to the applicant, so there won't be any bleachers. How does one or a spectator watch a football game? Are they going to bring in temporary bleachers? Well, I think that's in conversation now, but I think they would end up doing something like that. Yes, they would have to. And those bleachers hold about 2,500 people, and anything they put in the new fields are much less than that. But they would need to bring in a temporary one. Yes. I just have concerns. I mean, where we are coming out of COVID, all the psychological damage that our children have suffered, and you take away something that is instrumental and integral to mental health, and people participating in sport is one of those things. So I have some concerns. So I just want to make sure that they have a plan to reinstitute those bleachers.
I can
Yes.
speak to that too. So you are looking at a site plan, so that's why the boundary has not been determined yet, looking to determine like exactly how much land we need for both parking and the bleachers. So there will be.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just a clarifying question to Marika. So the new JFK High School still utilizes the football field for the old site. Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, second. Any other questions or comments?
Hi, I'm Tara Peters, the City Public Art Coordinator. The one question or comment I had was with regard to the mural that's on the existing, JFK Recreation Center. Is that the school district, make any notifications to the artists that they are demolishing the building to give the artists sufficient time to document their work since it's gonna be part of that demolition? And I do have artist contact information.
Okay.
I can put in the chat.
Okay, so I think if you didn't hear that, Jeff, the question was, are you documenting the mural or the artist? Have you contacted the artist, and would you be willing to do so prior to demolition?
I think they would be willing to do so. I don't know who the artist is. I don't know. But I think the district would be willing to do that and document that in its current state anyway, before the building would come down, yes.
Would you be willing to add that to the motion that you contact Tara and do that prior to demolition?
Yes, I'd like to amend my motion, Madam Chair, that that prior to demolition, the artist is contacted and able to document the mural, and that the artist's contact information be obtained from Tara Petras of the City Planning Commission.
Can we second that?
Yes.
Okay, motion and a second. Call the roll, Michael.
Anthony,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Shiori Clark.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. We have a
Thank you.
public art presentation. This is a Little Puerto Rico mural. This is seeking final approval at 6105 Memphis. And we have two people, Harry and Darlene. Are you both online?
Yes.
Both here? Yeah, I just need to swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Yes.
Yes. Councilman
Okay.
Harsh, I'm also here on this. Sorry, I just swore myself in.
Oh, you're good. Okay, and Tara, do you want to open or you want them to go first?
I'll just make a comment. This mural is proposed for Ward 14, which is Chris Harsh's ward on A.
Ward 13.
Did I say 14? I'm sorry, Ward 13.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Chris Harsh's
That's all right.
ward. I do support the mural based on the existing condition of the building itself on the wall. They're proposing as well as adding a little infusion of Latin culture into the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay. All right, go ahead. You guys can present. I think there are slides. We lost Maurice though. Are you moving? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I am the applicant Harry Quinones of 787 Market at 6105 Memphis Avenue. Thank you for letting me present. So basically the mural is trying to emulate a street in the historic district of Puerto Rico's capital, San Juan. The mural intends to represent the new residents of the neighborhood, which are Puerto Ricans that came during Hurricane Maria after 2017. And also this mural is intended to complement our business since we're already a Puerto Rican grocery store that specializes in products from the Caribbean. The main goal with this mural is to create an attraction here in Cleveland where people can, from across the city, can come and take a picture. We intend to reach out to Destination Cleveland later once we get approval to be incorporated on their platforms, both digital and print. And besides creating vibrancy in the neighborhood, this mural is intended to basically complement a new portion of our business, which is a coffee shop that's going into our business as well. So in conclusion, I would like to say that this mural is a cultural reference to a large population in our city, and it's not in any way offensive or an eyesore. And we hope that this mural can be enjoyed by the masses for years to come, and that it can become a staple here in Old Brooklyn.
Okay, thank you. Just to clarify, the slide after is the design, so it's on one wall. It's the bottom here, right? The elevation on the bottom. Yeah.
Yes, that's our design.
Yep. Thank you. It's nice. Commission members?
I move approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I will say I really like it, a lot. I like the color. So thank you. I do. And it's a very appropriate wall for it too. Solid wall, so thank you.
Can I
Motion
say
and second.
something briefly? Madam Chair?
What? Yes, sure.
Madam Chair, can I just say something very briefly, Madam Chair?
Sure.
Thank you. This is a fantastic project, and I just really have to give some well-deserved props to Harry Quinones and his family. They live in the neighborhood. They started this market a few years ago. It's really become a premier destination for Puerto Rican foods, and a lot of people say bodega. It's a trendy word to use, but they've actually built one. This is a great little shop. You can stop in, you can hang out, you can eat some food, you can get what you need for your groceries, and it's just a tremendous asset to Memphis Avenue and Ward 13 and Cleveland in general. And I'm enthusiastically supporting this, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Do we already have a motion and a second? Can we call the roll?
Madam Chair, who made the motion?
I did. Downing.
All right. Anthony,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Shiori Clark.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Would
For
have carried on me.
for the next item is ordinance 1278-2022. And I understand that we have some very special guests here today. It's true, Marco. Okay, so you must be proud of your wonderful daughter. Just so you know,
Welcome.
the Assistant Director, Marco Field, and we're so happy to have you. It doesn't happen very often, just so you know, that we have parents here. So thank you for giving us your talented daughter here. So, but this is a mandatory referral, and this is designating Calvary Hill Temple Church of God in Christ as a Cleveland landmark. And we'll welcome you to speak after he presents, if that's okay. Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Rogers Landmark staff. The church is located at 2765 Wood Hill Road. This was nominated by the Landmarks Commission on September 8th, 2022. And we have written approval of the ownership and of the councilman for this. Next slide, please. This is located here at Wood Hill Road, Shaker Boulevard in Buckeye. You can see it there at the corner. It's very prominent and has been there for many years. Next slide, please. I just want to have actually thank ownership for their research, and they have done a great job. And we needed to summarize some stuff, but they did a deep dive, and it was much appreciated, their contributions to this presentation. Just a brief overview here. We don't need to dive into too much about the United Methodist denomination and key dates of many mergers that we've seen, not only in this denomination, but other religions as well. Mergers. Next slide, please. History of Calvary United Methodist. And again, starting in our area in the 1840s, increasing through the 1860s, and then the basic as they move through the city in getting to their current location. Next slide, please. Church in different conferences, name changed in 1871. And then you can see the framed building originally on Oakdale, which is now East 93rd near Steinway, both the original and then the large building in 1902. Next slide, please. Then we had some mergers between 1892 and 1906 to make this congregation grow larger, different ones. And then they enlarged the building, like I said, in 1902, renovated, and then they finally got they were forced to move to this current location because of the Beltway that came through. And you'll see that in a minute. Could I have the next slide, please? So here's how it looked in 1912. So after it was built, you can see up on 93rd and Steinway where you see the Apollo Theater mark. That was actually where the church was before they moved here. And then you can see the Beltway right behind it. Next slide, please. The building was dedicated September 20th, 1908. Then again, more mergers, changing it because when the church denominations merged, things changed as well. And then you can see the congregation there in 1962. Next, please. In 1979, this building was sold to the current congregation. And what's interesting, and we will note the picture here, what you are looking at is an architectural feature, and we'll talk about the Akron plan in a second. You see it in the foreground, that's the main sanctuary. In the background, that was the Sunday school area. So so you have an idea of, and there's that partition in between that's removable and can be sealed. Next, please. There's our church that we talked about at the top of the hill. Next slide, please. So the architectural, the Akron plan, which was devised basically in the 1860s, and because there was more of a focus on Sunday schools after the Civil War, they were generally held in a large classroom with all of the students in one. And what this Akron plan did was it actually separated the different classrooms and the different classes, but they gave them equal space. And then you could have the teacher sitting down in the one podium. Next slide, please. And you can see how it works here. And there was a partition in between so they could seal it off, do stuff in the sanctuary. And then when first period started, there was a mechanism to be able to put them back together. And so what you saw in that picture, there's how that worked. By the time that this building was being constructed, it was actually at the end of the Akron plan, and it was kind of falling out of favor by this time. And I believe the last Akron plan church in Ohio was built in 1910, and that's in Salem, Ohio.
Is that Akron?
Akron, yes, this is Akron, Ohio.
So other people use this across the country and they
Yes.
called it Akron?
Yep, so that was the name, yeah. It was, yeah.
There's an Akron plan.
There's an Akron plan.
Wow.
Next slide, please. Architect of the building, Paul McNair, documented over 128 buildings in the greater Cleveland area of all types of stuff. Many of his buildings are in or are designated landmarks as well. Next slide, please. Here are a couple of examples throughout the city, both east side, west side.
Wow.
Next slide, please. Beautiful stained glass windows inside. And just next slide, please, just so you have an idea. That's what they look like in color. Next slide, please. In 1925, the Edwards Addition was placed on the rear. This is after the Van Swearingens came through and redesigned everything in this time. So this is connected to the Van Swearingens plan as well. Don't have an architect for the Edwards Addition. Can't find a building permit yet. For some reason, it's not listed under the same address. So there's still a little bit of research to do here. Next, please. And this is the Edwards Addition on back. It fronts on Buckeye. Or on Shaker Boulevard. Next, please. And here you can see how it now sits in 1937 after the reconfiguration and the addition of the rapid transit. Next, please. Temporarily, the Cleveland Public Library had a branch there and taught English classes and assimilated American culture. Next slide, please. We've listed some significant congregation members, leaders in their communities, and Bishop Fields helped increase the jurisdiction and member congregation. Next, please. So it is a significant familiar community feature. You see it when you arrive at this intersection. It stands out, and it's a beautiful building, and there's a couple of the other sites here. The nomination, this building meets most of our criteria for nomination. The nomination will assist in helping them be eligible for potential grant funding and such like that. So we support this as well. Next slide, please. So it's the Lighthouse on the Hill, 1907, and I believe that is the last slide. So I will leave it with that.
Do you like this one?
Yes. Thank you. I'd just like to say that the building or the church has been a fixture in the community for over 116 years, well, for 116 years now, since 2007, since 1907 rather. And it has been an integral part of that community in terms of helping the immigrant population to assimilate into the culture. And it has been, just really a great asset for the community, and it has continued to do that. We have, when the community changed, for instance, when it became predominantly African-American community, still so much needed to be done with disinvestment and with redlining and all of those things that affected the neighborhood. Our congregation came in, adopted streets around the building, established community clubs, block clubs. We were responsible for having 70 houses that were dilapidated in the community torn down. Habitat came in and made a proposal to rehab houses and also to build new houses. They rehabbed about 15 houses and built another 40 houses on 5 streets that we adopted in the community. In the community, the church right now serves as a real community base for a lot of activities in the community. And we're, I think, a valued force for revitalization of the area. And, we think that the building needs to just continue to be that lighthouse on the hill for the community. And that's why we are trying to get it designated as a historic building. The other thing I was going to say is that there's a lot of development going on around the church right now with the Woodhill Choice program, with Buckeye Refresh, that's doing a lot of building and so forth. And, we want to certainly be that resource for the neighborhood as it develops, and also to, just continue to provide the support for the community that the church has historically provided. So that's just want to continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Commission members, any questions, comments? Mark,
I
have
move
any
approval.
questions for your dad?
Just kidding. I move for approval.
And I second.
Congratulations.
What a wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful thing.
Yes.
Call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Shio Erie Clark.
Yes.
I always learn so much
Yeah.
from this presentation, so thank you.
So
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ordinance number 542023. This is authorizing the Director of Capital Projects, Public Safety and Public Works to enter into a development or purchase agreement with Turn Dev or its designee. And this is for the sale of real property at 2520 to 2570 Superior Avenue for the new police headquarters. Carter, I don't need to swear you in, obviously. You're just presenting on behalf of the city, of course, right?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I also have with me Deputy Chief Todd of the Cleveland Division of Police, so she's my backup. We're here for the mandatory referral for the legislation for the police headquarters, and we are just here for the legislation, and the project will be coming back to the normal process once the design is developed. And I should give the caveat that any of the kind of design images you see are really very preliminary, and the design hasn't really started on this. So I'm just going to give you some background, a little bit of history, the RFP process that we went through to select the site, and an overview of the current proposal, and some kind of comparisons of the various options that we looked at, and then what we're looking at for the so the project history, as I think you're all aware, there was a design being developed for the Opportunity Corridor site at the East 75th. That was originally announced in 2019. There have been some site clearing and general site improvements that have occurred on that site. There was a groundbreaking held in December of 2021, and the design is not complete for that. The design has been pushed to pause. There were $106 million worth of bonds issued for the police headquarters. And there's approximately 92 million right now that we have for this project. When we started working on this Opportunity Corridor design throughout 2022, we realized that the cost, the rising budget of the project as conceived and as it was being designed at Opportunity Corridor was far in excess of what we were willing and able to spend on that. And also that there were significant program elements of the police headquarters campus, if you will, that were not incorporated in the Opportunity Corridor design that would have to be found homes somewhere else. So that was a piece that hadn't been designed that needed to be funded and designed and so forth. That would have also required the entire program of the police headquarters to end up being split. So there would be some elements at the Opportunity Corridor and some elements in other locations to be determined, which created operational issues. Also, the timeline of the 2026 delivery was problematic for the Division of Police and their occupancy at the Justice Center. So we were working through this, and we started to work through some other options, trying to capitalize on either Opportunity Corridor and or additional sites that public safety controlled, trying to work through several different options. We started to receive some unsolicited proposals from other sites. Now realizing that, we had to really look at all the options that were on the table. The administration decided to issue an RFP that was done in October so that we could really canvass what was out there, what was available, and also make sure we had complete and comparable information from various proposers. So we're getting a different quality level of information from proposers. We said, well, we really need to have an even playing field. We need to make sure everyone has an opportunity to propose on this, and we're comparing everything really apples to apples. So there were three primary goals that we were looking for. One, obviously the primary goal is to deliver the facility that CDP needs, first-class operational facility. We needed to reduce the costs, and we need to expedite the timeline. Now, obviously there are a lot of other criteria in the RFP in terms of the facility size. We had a basic program in there. We had requirements like that the CDP be the sole occupant, that ultimately we would own the facility. We had proximity, OEO requirements, a lot of other things that we evaluate the various RFPs that we received. So we did receive 6 RFPs or responses to the RFP, I should say. And then what we did is we evaluated all of those, and we also threw into the evaluation the Opportunity Corridor and another option that we had developed, which was splitting the campus between the Opportunity Corridor and 2001 Payne. So essentially evaluated all of those as if they were all proposals. The ArtCraft TurnDev proposal, which is what we're looking at now, was the one that came out on top for a lot of reasons, which we'll get into. But that was what was selected by the selection committee. The property that we're looking at on Superior, which is known as the ArtCraft building, is on the south side of Superior, just inboard or just on the west of the inner belt there. Zooming into the site a little bit, if you're not familiar with this site, it is the existing building is a 250,000 square foot industrial building built circa 1920. It's a very typical Cleveland industrial building. It's 7 stories, has the open floor plate, mushroom caps, cast in place concrete with the brick exterior, lots of glass. It's really, if you go in with it into one of the sort of cleared out floor plates, it's really remarkable how much natural light there is that comes into this building. We go back to the site plan just briefly. The Interbelt on-ramp obviously is just adjacent to the building. That interchange is planned to be redeveloped through I believe it's the CCG4 component of the ODOT renovation of the inner belt. We have already initiated conversations with ODOT so that we're coordinating our design with what they're planning to do. We anticipate that our work will be completed long before they start theirs, but we want to make sure that any necessary engineering coordination is done up front. So this is the building, which I think you all are probably quite familiar with. The building is not a landmark, nor is it a landmark district. However, it has a real architectural stature and character, which we want to preserve. We want to be very careful about what we do to this building architecturally. And as I said, we'll come back for design, but just to give a little context, obviously we'll be replacing these, steel single pane industrial windows with modern performing windows, but that have an architectural character that's appropriate. These are some renderings that were submitted with the proposal. And again, I would caution these are, the design hasn't really started, but we do anticipate a garage on the back property, which is currently all parking lots. And geotechnical investigation is underway for that. The borings are done. We expect the report next week. So that's all just kind of very preliminary. Again, the signage here, we don't know what that's going to be. We do plan to preserve the water tower just as part of the architectural character and the history of the building. This is a general site plan. Again, a parking garage facility to the south of the building. It's currently all parking lots. We currently don't anticipate there will be a running track on the roof, but again, it hasn't been designed. There will be some police functions in the garage. We're looking at about 450 police parking spaces and about 50 public parking spaces. There will be some public functions in here, including a community room. Records will be there, so there will be some public functions there. It will be a complete gut and rehab, new building systems, new HVAC, completely new roof, elevators. We are very aware of the visibility of this from the Innerbelt and from Superior, so that's going to be important. This project does have a goal of LEED Silver, which we feel very confident that we're on track to do that, and this development team has a record of success in that. In addition to that, we don't just plan to do the minimum for LEED Silver. We have some other initiatives in mind that we want to undertake for sustainability. Some of the selection considerations when we were looking through the proposals, the best combination of location, functionality, and costs. Just does this work for the police, their needs, their adjacencies, the delivery time of the overall project. Getting the whole campus in one location. Of all the proposals, I think there were only 2 that had the whole campus in one location. The support from CDP and public safety, so we had CDP represented on the selection team. Accessibility, both for the public to get there, whether it's by car, by bus. We're going to be on the Superior Midway, so we really like that. That was important as well. But also accessibility for the people that work there, proximity to City Hall, to courts, to downtown, and also to the freeway system. The track record of success with the development team, the engineers, architects, and the developer who have success with a similar project just on the street, and also the design team having experience both with office layouts and that kind of baseline work that Vocon is very good at, and also some of the very particular code requirements that police headquarters has that other facilities don't. And the MEP and structural teams have some really good experience with that. Also, the OEO participation. This was the only proposal that received an OEO good faith effort. In fact, they were the only proposal that really had a complete enough OEO submission to make an evaluation. There will also be a CBA and a PLA as part of the overall agreement. Those are still in the works. We don't know the final terms of that yet. But also just the flexibility of the floor plates, the building efficiency, and of course that commitment to energy and sustainability. This is just a side-by-side comparison of what we were looking at the Opportunity Corridor. We had 180,000 square feet at the OC, and then that additional 44,000 square feet that needed to be located somewhere else that wasn't really determined yet. We had a project delivery at the end of 2026. And then that overflow program, we really didn't know what the project delivery would be with that because it hadn't been designed or located yet. And then obviously additional Justice Center lease costs. The Artcraft building, the building itself is about 250,000 square feet, so that is going to comfortably hold all of the administrative program. As I mentioned, there will be some functions like storage and so forth in the garage as well. We're looking at a 2025 movement, so there's a lot of advantage obviously in that time frame. Overall cost comparison, opportunity corridor. This is, obviously it's in design, so this is estimated, and particularly the overflow program is, just a conceptual design. But we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 161 million for that. By the way, on our split with 2001 paying, which was partly intended to save costs, we got to about 140 million with that. The aircraft as proposed is a 90 million NTE right now. There will be a series of GMPs as we go forward, so we have opportunities to effectively as we go along to make sure we're staying both within the budget and within CDP's needs. The deal structure is a development and sale agreement. TurnDev will be essentially the construction manager for the project, with a lot of very close city supervision of the design and construction as it goes along. It will be an open book process, so we'll be able to see exactly where the money is being spent. The overall project development team is TurnDev with Turner as a CM and Ozan. Volcon is the AOR, Karpinski is the EOR for MEP, and Barbara Hoffman is the EOR for structural. As I mentioned, CBA PLA process, and it will be an open book contract, which was one of the requirements that we actually had. And we'll be approving all the GMPs, we'll be approving all the pay apps. We also have an owner's representative on board to help us facilitate that. So that's a quick outline of the project. Where we stand right now, as I said, is at the very beginning of design. So we will be coming back for probably several phases of design.
Madam Chair,
Mm-hmm.
entertaining questions?
Mhm.
Comments? Reach out. I have two observations. The first is, I think this is a far superior site.
New construction is expensive.
Pardon?
We're gonna say also new construction is expensive.
Well, it's not even that, but you don't want me to go on my social impact commentary concerning having all those police buildings located in the highest concentration of public housing in the country. So I'll leave it there. I have real concerns about the collective bargaining agreements that I've seen. They're not substantive. They're superficial. And what I mean by that is you create jobs, but there's no.
So just to be clear, when I say CBA, I mean community benefits.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. They're superficial. They just create jobs, but they don't create metrics. They don't create a continuum beyond that point. We should be having training and something that gets paid into, that allows the next workforce of talented craftspeople to thrive in this community. And I just don't think the ones that we've been creating even come close to that. Pittsburgh's done a really good job. We have examples out there. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
So I would say the CBA is still being formed, but there has been discussion about mentorship opportunities and bringing in smaller disadvantaged firms to help them step up, as well as having actual metrics on site.
And I, as a thought, I mean, like, we have mandated a certain percentage of public art be carved out. I think we should look at employment and workforce opportunities be carved out of these projects as well. So each project keeps generating, and it's the gift that keeps giving. So I just think we need to get serious about that. So, thank you.
Okay. Madam Chair, may I speak? Oh, a good opportunity for this would be the apprenticeship programs. The city of Cleveland does have an apprenticeship program, I'm aware, but it needs to be broadened, and this is your opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
Chair, I have a technical question, and then I just building on the last two comments from my fellow commissioners. Can you define for me what the project labor agreement is? I'm not familiar with that.
So that a project labor agreement, and again, this is still in formation what this project labor agreement will require, but it typically has requirements of prevailing wage, which we require anyway, and what the labor agreements look like between the contractors and subcontractors and the people who work for them.
Got it. And I would just agree again with my fellow commissioners, particularly when you think about, you know, this particular part of our city, the opportunities that it can present. Obviously, we have challenges in our community with relationships between law enforcement and residents. And this is a great opportunity to bridge some community building with residents in our community as well. Carter, I also have another question, Madam Chair, if that's okay. I know these are preliminary renderings, but just for my edification, we can go back to the slide that shows art craft building preliminary renderings, please. One more, please. Where we can see the parking lot, the part of that one. There we go. I know what currently the parking lots look like that are adjacent to the art craft building. Can you help me understand how far down the proposed parking lot would go? And are those lots owned currently by the art craft or any of those public lots?
So those are all currently owned by the current property owner, which is turned out. So that will be part of our, we're not taking any public lots. This initial rendering and again, this shows an implication of some maybe offices on the third floor there, which we don't think is gonna happen. We don't know what this facade is gonna look like. There is an option on the table that we're discussing of potentially some green wall treatment on there. We don't know if that's gonna be able to happen or not. This rendering this rendering, which was in the original proposal, shows it coming all the way to the south end of the property, and there you can see there's that small brick building adjacent to it. That's the Lake Effect Studios. We've actually reached out to the owners there and the owners of the building supply company across the street. Obviously, they want to know what's going on, and they have some legitimate concerns. The current, again, it's already acceptable, but the current design that we have actually pulls it away from that building. And there's a kind of a drive in between there. So we do want to be sensitive to the neighbors there. They have some parking concerns and just, you know, a big thing going on next to their building. So we're going to continue to follow up with them. Again, we don't know what this facade, you know, it's interesting because what was really sort of the back lot here now becomes a pretty prominent facade along the inner belt. And we want to capitalize on that and make sure that it's done sensitively. I don't know what it's going to be yet.
Okay. And I know that we're at the preliminary. I just want to note because of the other businesses. Again, I was just trying to visualize. I know Lake Effect is on that same street. That, you know, as we move through this process, that we're cognizant of the existing tenants on that block and impact on their.
Yeah, we met with them on site maybe 2 weeks ago, kind of went around a little bit, give us some initial thoughts.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, you can, if you have it.
Well, if you go to the last slide, just following up on what you said, the one that had the 3D rendering. This might not be possible, no, the one you just had. This might not be possible, but as you guys, you know, I actually really like Superior, and I used to go to the print room a lot, which is on the first floor of the door towards the inner belt. And so back one, actually. So what I'm wondering is, are there any possibilities that at least the corner, this corner where the sign is or something, that at the ground floor, that you can think about a little bit more kind of active uses or things that might add life to Superior? I know it's a police station, but like, if there happens to be a coffee station or something inside there that you guys are going to have for the officers, or something that where even visitors are coming and can grab coffee, because there will be, right? That you think about those things, at least on the ground floor visually, can some of them, you know, that also make this more welcoming, I think, to Erica's point, that this is like a place for people. You don't love to come here, but if you do come here, that it sends these different messages about the idea of the ground floor. And I think Superior is a really interesting street with the buildings down from it that are starting to try to do this. So I would just sort of, it's a suggestion to really think about those kind of things and making them more visible and present and accessible on the ground floor, not just through this kind of front door approach to office buildings, right? That's it.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely, take that on board, discuss it with CDP, how it might dovetail with their needs. As we're looking at the first floor, obviously, you know, the public facing aspects of this are probably gonna be concentrated on the first floor. As you know, there are two sort of main front doors along Superior. We don't know how we're gonna manage that, if it's sort of one entry that the traffic splits or there's sort of a public and not public entry, we don't know, but, as you may know, a lot of the front of the building the glass is bricked up
Yeah.
mostly right now, so we want to restore a lot of that, as you can see in this rendering. We do want to make it welcoming as, you know, as it can be, so we'll take that on board and discuss that with the design team.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say something similar. I would echo the comments. I just think in terms of transparency, even for people that are walking by, even if you're not going in, I feel like it's important for this building from a pedestrian scale to feel kind of open and welcoming and like there's a sense of transparency. What I would not want is for it to feel like this sort of opaque facade all the way along Superior where you walk by and you can't really see into the building at all. So
I think another important aspect that we haven't gotten into yet, but that we want to develop is that streetscape.
Mhm.
Because there's the sidewalk, there's sort of this
Mhm.
currently rather motley green area and then kind of the plow strip.
Yep.
So we want to look at what that.
Yeah, yeah. And then just one second comment is, I know this building had a long, I think over 30-year history as a home for a lot of artist studios. And we have Tara Petros in the room still also. I just personally would really urge the team to think about a prominent plan for public art on this building. One, just because it's a, prominent sort of public building, but also kind of to honor that history of a lot of the artists. I think some of whom, dealt with some displacement over the last few months in preparation for this change of use. So I just think that's really important to kind of make that feel prominent in the design for this.
I think the entire garage should be murals, but that's just I was at South Beach this past last weekend. And I don't know if any of you guys been to Wynwood Walls, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
But the South Beach Police, I'm not comparing it to, it's a pleasant police station. It's carved out, it's a little plaza, where the corner roads, and people sort of trickle and filter in.
Yeah.
So just a thought.
Yeah, I want to echo that. I mean, the garage, and I know this is not the plan, but it looks like a fortress right now. So whatever you could create as a welcoming entry on Superior for the streetscape and, the other suggestions that have been made, if you go with that design or even close to it for the garage, it's just going to look like a fortress and it's very unwelcoming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's some creative things.
We don't want the poles.
It's a huge opportunity.
So nobody's going to feel welcomed. They'll, so.
Happy balance.
Yeah. One other thing, I love that you're saving the water tower. As an aside, and Eric might know this, my daughter made a documentary of the water towers in New York City, and it's my boys narrating why they're so cool. And there's an actual artist from New York who actually did a public art project with water towers in New York, and it's extraordinary. Some of them were cast in resin, some were lit, and some were like, and it's amazing. I'll send you the little documentary. But my point is, what it struck for me was that, and I wouldn't normally say this, but I almost think if there's public art money in this project, and there probably is, in addition to the garage, I would do an extraordinary, creative, colorful lighting of this building. Go with me for a second. Send a message that at night, and it gets dark early here in Cleveland, that this is actually a wonderful, beautiful thing. Like that it was lit artistically.
So, yeah, that's, I mean.
I know it might
don't
be a
mean to get ahead of
problem,
ourselves, but it's interesting because one of the things, we really want to preserve the architectural character of this building. And that's something that could enliven it, but still be sensitive.
Yeah, 100%. And it's such a cool, building, yes. So if it was lit that way and you actually used the money to hire someone who lit the bridges for the bicentennial. You're very involved in that. Yeah. So that it had that, we're celebrating this and it becomes beautiful. visible from the freeway. But also when people come down Superior, it's a beacon. And may change the dynamic of how people feel about it. Like, to me, that's just an opportunity, and you're gonna need to light the building anyway, so just my idea. And then you could light the water tower too, for me.
So
All right.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes,
Shield Clark.
Yes.
Motion carries. That was the longest mandatory retreat the borough has had. It was great.
Well, then when they come back, it'll incorporate our.
Because last time. When the opportunity.
I think all your ideas. Thank you. Thank you.
That's true. The last one is just administrative approval, but I need to recuse myself. That's the last one, obviously.
Guys, take a moment to look over the administrative approval ordinance number 31, 2023.
I move approval.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Anthony,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes,
Shield Clark.
Yes.
I think that's all today, correct, Marcia? We're done?
Yes, the director's report. Director.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
So, first, just want to thank you all for, 2 great soft launches, of hybrid meetings. We will be widely sharing and encouraging the hybrid meetings, format beginning on, February 3rd. And we'll continue to refine the format of planning commission meetings, and we will be training staff on how to do staff meetings, or staff reporting during commission meetings, and begin integrating brief staff reports in the future meetings beginning on February 3rd. And we just have a few project and policy updates. The proposed language for the small changes to the zoning code will remain available on our website until January 31st, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. for public comment and review. Public comments received after the deadline will not be posted for review. Public comments for the townhouse code officially closed on January 17th at 11:59 p.m. Comments are available for the commission to review. Staff will review comments and finalize a draft. We have to put it in the commission meeting. Then shared mobility updates, beginning next Friday, January 27th. The city will be extending the current shared e-scooter curfew from the current cutoff of 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. After the change, shared e-scooters will be available for riders from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. daily. Shared e-bikes will continue to be available 24 hours a day. That concludes the report.
May I, Ms. Field, make a recommendation? I think would be incredible if every item had the service area. There's not consistency, the service area and the council person. So you have all that information, you're looking at it.
If I may, Mr. Vice Chairman, we do all of that in the slides, and when we started doing that on the slides, I removed a lot of that from the actual final agenda. I don't put the motion forms from design review anymore, because it's all in the slides. If you want us to go back into putting more information in the final agenda, I can do that.
Well, the reason why, I mean, sometimes I don't get to the visuals and I go through the agenda and try and identify those things I might have to recuse myself from. And being a board chair at St. Clair Superior and sharing like boundaries with Flamicos, I need to kind of know where that is so that I can, call up Lillian and let her know that I may not be able to participate. That's all. It's just helpful for me.
You'd like to have it in the final agenda.
And then I don't know if it's helpful for anyone else.
Yeah.
That's.
Okay.
But I do love the way the slides are now and the
Yes.
way you guys have the motions and things like that. You also, there's a report about parking that you have to hear. It's very important.
You know, in the old days, right, before the pandemic, we had a stamp, right? And then we got into the validation system. But now I guess with this new validation system that we're operating under, if you validate it too early, like you have 20 minutes to leave. And if you do it too early before that 20, you know what I'm saying? you can't leave the garage, it won't let you get out. So we have to put a time that's right.
I'd see people rule the world.
Get out of the
Got it.
garage.
So you couldn't like validate in 15 minutes, stay here for a day and then do the validation. Bad actors.
You used to be able to stay here all day on that.
Somebody, yeah.
Yeah, so somebody,
Been using
they're
this
abusing
as-
their staff.
Well, I bike, so maybe some of you should start biking too.
All right, well, meeting adjourned. So